James Loewen, we're here at the 2016 AAP Convention Protests. You've come down from Canada to film it for posterity, for other intactivists. You're collecting quite a record of the history of intactivism through film and photographs and your own personal observations and experiences. What do you see? Where do you see intactivism being next year at this time?
Oh, good question, Brother K. Right now, we've seen so much advancement. Certainly, I've seen a lot of advancement on this issue from when I first began in the early 90s. I remember coming down to San Francisco for a protest that Tim Hammond held under the group that he had started called No Harm. And that was in, I think, 1993 or 94. And so it's really encouraging seeing what we've seen this weekend here at the AAP conference with dozens of protesters and, you know, making a really big splash on the street. Hard to predict though where it's going to go, because so much changes with this, you know, and there are so many developments that have happened in the last couple of years. I feel we're certainly reaching critical mass, and so it's really anyone's guess where this is going to go, but it certainly is going in the right direction. You know, we're not going back into the dark ages anymore. The issue is out there, people are aware of it, and you know, that's what I feel my purpose is as a documentarian, is to record this as much as I possibly can and get it out there into the social media and the public eye as much as possible.
Now, I first met you 4 years ago at the AAP Convention in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And you asked me a question that really made me think, and so I'm now going to turn around and ask you the same question.
Okay.
Are you optimistic?
You know, Brother K, I'm basically an optimistic person, and I have to be. And I realize I'm maybe more optimistic than some of my my intactivist friends, you know, who I see succumbing to a lot of depression and anxiety about this. And of course I get that too, but every time I come to a protest like this and reconnect with the people who I admire so much, I have newfound energy about this issue. So I'm very optimistic about it, even though it's the most depressing and horrible issue you can possibly imagine.
Isn't that the truth?
One of them.
James, I know that you filmed and interviewed, photographed Jonathon Conte on many occasions, and here we are, almost half a year since his suicide. I even hate to use that word, it's just so incongruous to think of that strong young man and suicide in the same sentence. But what do you make of it, and what do you think Jonathon would want us to do, and how would he want us to remember him and continue our work?
Well, I think Jonathon was pretty clear about this issue, and he made it a primary focus of his life in the short time, 5 years that I knew him. And I'm quite certain that he would have encouraged us to keep going. I'm just sorry that he wasn't able to keep going himself.
Do you have any counsel for young men in particular who are finding out for the first time that they were subjected to this sexual mutilation as babies? Because we know that it's hidden from men, and we know that our movement, one of the things that we're doing with our movement is to let men know that they were subjected to this.
You know, that's such a tough thing to think about, because I remember how it hit me like a ton of bricks when I was a child, when I found out what had happened to me, and how that devastation just keeps going on. Like, the damage of circumcision is not something that you can understand in one short time, you know, as someone told me, the more you know about it, the worse it is. And in a sense, this is true, because the more we learn about this issue and about the anatomy of the genitals, the depth of human feelings, it really does get worse and worse. But for young men who are coming to an understanding of what this is, I would encourage them to connect with others who understand the issue, because you definitely need to have sympathetic friends. And unfortunately, some people are very much alone with these feelings. So I would encourage people to reach out to others in the intactivist movement and find like-minded friends, and also to find balance in their lives, because one of the things I think that hurt Jonathon so much was that he was focused so intently on this issue, and it is a tough issue, and you want to try and have some kind of balance in life that gives pleasure, allows you to find the pleasure in life as well. And that's the best I can do. You know, I don't think there's any real formula for this other than find balance.
James Loewen, do you have any words for Dr. Douglas Takima, who you notoriously captured on film the other day? Do you have any words for him and his cohorts in the circumcising of the American people?
Well, I think about Jonathon Conte's words, and Jonathon Conte had some very strong words for people like Douglas Takima, people that tamper with and poke at and cut the genitals, the pleasure parts of a tiny human being, a child, their private parts. And these people who dig into the child's private parts and cut them so cruelly, Jonathon called them sick fucks. And that's exactly what they are. They're absolutely sick in the head. And I would challenge Douglas Takima anytime to a public debate about medical ethics and human rights.
Thank you, James Loewen. Thank you for your work, and I look forward to seeing you many, many times in the coming years as we move the ball towards the goal, which is that North American English-speaking boys and boys around the world and girls around the world, but our focus is on North America, Canada, and the United States. I look forward to the day when we can celebrate the fact that boys will be protected from sexual mutilation, sexual surgery in childhood, just as English-speaking girls are.
I agree, Brother Kay. I will not rest until all children, boys, girls, and intersex, are protected by law around the world in every country of the world from any and all forms of genital mutilation, any and all forms of tampering with their genitals. We'll get there. It's basic human rights, body integrity and autonomy.
Thank you, James Loewen.
Thanks, Brother King.